As I sat there and I watched this movie, it felt like somebody switched on the eyes of my heart. And God used this story to really teach me about who I truly was as his child that was created in his image. And he taught me about my true identity and he's used this story my entire life to lead me and guide me even into the things that I am doing today. He still speaks to me through pictures and images of this story. So for those of you who haven't seen that story, I'll just give you a brief explanation. The movie Tangled follows the story of the fairy tale of Rapunzel. She is born to the king and queen, and she gets stolen by Mother Gothel, who is using her power to stay young. So this old woman who appears to be young locks Rapunzel up in a tower, and Rapunzel grows up her entire life believing that she is Gothel's child. And Gothel tells her all these lies about herself, that she's not good enough, that she doesn't have what it takes to go outside of the tower, and that the world is a scary place and that she would never make it on her own. But something happens every year on Rapunzel's birthday. She notices that there are lights in the distance. There are these floating lights, and it turns out that these lights were only coming out on her birthday because her father never stopped celebrating her. Every year on her birthday, the king and the queen and everybody in the kingdom would light these lanterns. They would send it off into the night sky. And Rapunzel noticed these lanterns, and it really spoke to her heart. There was something about those lights that were drawing her. So she becomes curious and she goes out of the tower. She disobeys Mother Gothel and she goes outside of the tower to explore, and she finds the kingdom. And eventually she learns about her true identity. And as she learns about who she is, there's this fire that gets stirred up inside of her, and she realizes that she doesn't belong in the tower, but she belongs in the kingdom. So God really used this story to start to speak to my heart. I get really emotional when I talk about this part, but when I saw the face of the king, when he lit that lantern, and he was just crying because he so longed to be with his daughter. It just broke my heart. And all the walls that I had built up in my life started crumbling. And my heart started to believe that God is good, that he really is a good father. And I also learned that God isn't mad he's not mad at me. He wasn't disappointed in me, but that he really longed to be in a close relationship with me. There is a verse in 1 John 3, verse 1 and 2 that says, "What great love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God, and so we are." I just love that verse so much because for the first time, my heart truly believed it, that I was the daughter of a good, good father. The Bible also says in John 10:10 that we have an enemy that comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And I had never realized that the things that were happening in my life was not just circumstantial, but that there is an enemy. There is an enemy. I had a Mother Gothel in my life as well. Our circumstances can very often tell us lies about who we are or who God is, or lies about the world. And I needed to learn how to discern between God's voice and the voice of the enemy. And even just knowing what thoughts I was having about myself that was coming from God and what thoughts was not coming from him. It was very important for me to learn that. And in that process, I started to become untangled from all the lies I was believing about myself. Oftentimes, our circumstances can tell us that we are powerless, that we are victims, but that is not who we really are. God says that we are beloved children of the King, that he has created us in his image, that we are like him, and that we can walk with authority, and that we can become everything that he says we are. So it has been a process of becoming untangled slowly but surely. As I've been learning how to stay close to my Father, he has really showed me how I can walk in my true identity and purpose. So after I had that incredible encounter with him, I started sharing my story with a friend at church, and she really encouraged me to share my story with the women at our church. And then eventually I started getting all sorts of opportunities to share in different places. But a few years after that, I really felt a nudge from God to write about this experience and to unpack that and really go into the detail of everything that I'd learned over a period of time. It took me a while to get the courage to share my story. But eventually, after about a decade, I said yes, and I took the opportunity to sit down and start writing my story. As I was writing, I discovered how much I was still tangled up in lies. I had so much fear of what people would think about me, fear of failure, fear of rejection. And one morning I was just quieting my heart, and as I was praying, I had a picture that I saw in my imagination of being a little girl lying before Jesus, making paper crowns. I had cardboard and glitter and feathers and fake gems, and I was making these elaborate paper crowns, and I was handing them to Jesus. And in my imagination, I could see him wear these crowns. I could see him put it on his head, and he was just delighting in these weird, strange, elaborate crowns. And I could see him hand these crowns to the Father, and the Father was sending them out into the night sky. These crowns became like those paper lanterns, like those floating lights, just like Rapunzel saw. And I knew that God was speaking to my heart, and he was saying that my story and all the stories that I'm writing are like paper crowns to him, and that he will use it to bring his lost children home. And that was so encouraging, because every time I felt overwhelmed by what I was doing, I just went back to that place of being a little girl at Jesus's feet, making paper crowns. And now I am actually helping other people make their paper crowns as well, which is just amazing to me, how God has taken my story and all the pain and all the brokenness, and he's used that to help other people find their own light, find their own stories, and share it with the world. So I just want to really speak to your heart tonight. If you're listening, I want you to know that your story matters to God. When I think back over my life and I think about all these stories that I read about, not just Bible stories, but people's testimonies, I get so overwhelmed by gratitude, because I know that these stories were like those lights for me. They were lights that was leading me back to the arms of my Father. Our stories are powerful, and God can use the deepest and darkest places of pain in your story to create a light for someone else's path. If you will just trust him to hand over your pen and give it to him. I think it's Hebrews 12 that says that God is the author and finisher of our faith. Maybe you're in a place where you're questioning whether he is a good father, whether he is good. Is God really, really good? Maybe you've experienced a place of pain that has brought confusion and you don't know whether God really cares. I want to just tell you tonight that he truly, truly cares. God will continue to write your story as long as you trust him. He wants you to not just know about him, but truly know him. And it's as simple as just quieting your heart and listening for his voice. You were created and designed to hear him, to hear his voice, to experience him. There is this beautiful prayer that Paul prays in the book of Ephesians, in Ephesians 1 and Ephesians 3. There are two prayers, I should say. And the first prayer is that the eyes of our hearts will be able to see, that we'll be able to understand who we are, who he created us to be, and that we will discover the hope of our calling. And I really believe that God is calling us back to his heart, and he might be calling you back to his heart today. I don't know what your experience is like, whether you have a relationship with God or haven't even started a relationship with God. But I want you to know that you are intimately known by him, and God has an incredible plan for your life. I also want to talk to you if you feel like you're not good enough. So often we can think that God does not want us to approach him or to be in a relationship with him because we feel shame or guilt, or we feel like we don't measure up. But I want to tell you tonight that I know from experience that it's not about how good we are, but about how good he is. And as we get into that connection with him, we will start to become good enough. He makes us good enough. It's his righteousness, his goodness that becomes our goodness as we live in union with him. And we do not have to fear approaching him. There's no condemnation. There's no judgment from him at all. He is just that Father who is standing in his kingdom, waiting for you to come out of your tower, to follow the light and to get back into his arms, because he loves you so much and he longs to be in that deep connection with you. He wants you to know him as well as he knows you. He has created you for a plan and a purpose, and everything that's happened in your life, no matter how dark, can be redeemed and can be turned into a blessing. So I pray that that story tonight has blessed your heart, and I'm just going to hand over to Alan. Alan, if you want to pray.
Thank you. Thank you, Meliza. Thank you for being so open and honest. It's not easy sharing and full of emotion like that. Wow, it's wonderful to hear how God has brought you through.